Jethro returns Zipporah and tells Moses to stop being so judgmental. God says, "Stay off my mountain." Welcome, Tales of Glory listeners. Here we are on the big episode 89. I'm recording just the weekend before Thanksgiving here of 2023. If you need a label and a map here to see where we're at. And we are diving into Exodus 18 and 19 in this episode. Let's see. I am your host, Reverend Michael Norton. I am the missionary at the microphone, and you are listening and tuned into Tales of Glory. I am the CEO and founder of M16 Ministries. We're a spiritual warfare ministry and also a prophetic evangelism ministry. We help people with some very hard cases that most deliverance ministers have out of their, what I call their level of paycheck, so to speak. So I do spiritual warfare ministry and exorcism, and also work with ritual abuse survivors, and I take on some very dark cases against the occult and spiritual warfare. So I'd like to welcome you guys in. Come in, take a seat, sit down by the fire, pour your favorite beverage, and let's dive into some of this. So what's our roadmap for today, Mike? Glad you asked. I'm going to continue on with our praise report and contending for a miracle and where we're at with that. And we are diving into Exodus 18 today, where Jethro returns his daughter, Zipporah. In Exodus 19, we get into some cosmic geography stuff. Mount Sinai. What's going on with Moses and the Israelites here? We're digging into the supernatural, guys. Again, this is about spiritual warfare and the occult in Exodus. This is all this is about. This is all about dealing with the supernatural here. Every bit of Exodus. And we tend to glean over it like it's some sort of, I don't know what you call it. Like it's allegory. It's not an allegory. This is stuff that happened in the supernatural with God, the creator of our universe, and how he encounters his people, the Israelites, during the Exodus. And we tend to make like something fun and something for Sunday school, or we just kind of like, wow, that's a kind of interesting story, Exodus. Interesting stuff there, blah, blah, blah. And we don't dig into the reality that it actually happened and all the weird supernatural stuff actually happened. That is why it's documented in the Torah, so that people wouldn't forget what God did for them. This is a supernatural book. We're dealing with supernatural beings that rebelled in Genesis 6. We talked about the last time. We're dealing with the giants and Amalek. And that tribe was a race of giants. Where did they come from? They came from when, the spiritual council members, the watchers who rebelled against God, came down to Mount Hermon during the time of when? During the time of Jared. Remember? Jared was like was he the father of Lamech? I can't remember my genealogy right now. But it's back in there, somewhere around, look at Genesis 4 or 5. Look who Jared on Noah's side. And that's when these angels rebelled and they broke down, came to Mount Hermon, and they took for themselves the daughters, right? There's this whole spiritual warfare thing going on. Then we have Genesis 11, where God divided the nations among the Ben Elohim. Remember, it was a punitive damage because they were not following God's instructions to disperse. Instead, man went down to, the valley of Shibar was in Iraq, and set up the Tower of Babel, which was building their own Eden, their own mountain of God and this stuff, and they were rebelling like, we could do this, So it's punitive damages. God divided them among the Ben Elohim, the divine council members. Some were good council members we know from New Testament. There's good hierarchies working under Jesus, and there's hierarchies that rebelled. And that's what we see was under Egypt. Pharaoh thought he was one of these spiritual beings incarnate, the spiritual being of Horus. We had some other ones there too. And these are the ones that were supposed to manage the property of Egypt for God. One of the 72 nations, or 70, however you look at it, Septuagint or the Torah. And they faced judgment against Yahweh. And we saw that, I think it was out Exodus 14 is let God fight battles for you. I think it was right after the last plague where God brought judgment on the Ben Elohims, the gods of Egypt. And that's where we're at. And so we're in these supernatural, we call it cosmic geographies, right? That these were owned by evil spirits that rebelled against God, the ones of Egypt. And they brought the witchcraft so man could replicate. Remember, we had the Hakartamim, the sorcerers of Pharaoh? They were taught the sorcery and the dark stuff from the regional spirits here. We're dealing with regional spirits. And they seem to be encamped around God's new cosmic geography here of Mount Sinai, which we're going to touch today. Right? We see all these battles like the Amalek seem to be around this place, the base of it, and in the area in the region, and running off the Israelites, keep them from encountering this mountain here. They probably realized that's where God was going. They got the information from the divine council, right? They were part of it. And so that's where we sit today. This whole thing, you have to look at it through the supernatural lenses, right? What's that? Was it, oh my gosh, somebody, Jesus put on my mind right now if it's prophetic or what. Like, oh, it's prophetic word, Mike. No, it's not. It's just something Jesus dropped in my mind. He's trying to talk here. Remember Nicolas Cage in National Treasure 2? They found Ben Franklin's glasses, and you adjust the lenses on the glasses, and you see the different symbols and stuff of the maps. That's kind of what Jesus put in my mind right now. Let's adjust our little Ben Franklin glasses right now. If we look at this supernaturally, you see this is not an allegory. This is history, right? This is something that took place. And we're going to dive into it deeper. What's amazing is, my boredom right now is kind of watching, I get sick of paranormal shows. Like, why can't we have more Jesus shows? Something close for Jesus, right? So I found, was Expedition Unknown. Sometimes Josh Gase hits it, sometimes he misses it. But he had 2 episodes devoted to Mount Sinai, which was fascinating because you get to see the history. Now, again, this is a historical place, and we don't really know Mount Sinai is, and Catholics thought it was one place. I thought it was funny was the Catholic Church there. Look, we even have the original burning bush. You're going, what? It was typical it was part of a crusader thing, and we maintained this stuff, right? Get a splinter of Jesus' cross, get a splinter of wood shavings of a chair Jesus built. So we digress. However, we still maintain the tradition. This is historical, and it happened. Even in the Muslims do too. I was surprised that the Muslims thought they had, Moses' body in one spot. So you got to check that out. I think it was season 11 or 12. If you have Discovery Plus, go look at that. It was season 12. If it's a new season, only has 1 episode out. Go back, look at like season 11. Look for Mount Sinai. It was like the last couple episodes for Cambodia or something like that. Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. So I'm digressing here. Process report and contending for a miracle. We are still contending for a miracle here. It's just, I keep bringing this up because I want you guys who are consistent listeners to start getting the light bulb to go on. When you contend for a miracle, it could go on for a very long time. Very long time. You just don't pray after one conference the person wasn't healed and like, we need to call Mike now. No, how long have you been praying for this person? Some people I know have been praying, for years, right? Decades. I'm sorry for some of you people too. Like you're frustrated too. You're for healing. I see autism and stuff. It's not demonic. It's not, whatever happened was demonic probably that interfere with this person's life and put him in this, mental wellness state of having to deal with autism or Asperger's, something like that. Sometimes it can pray and be healed, but like I said, I'm dealing with someone right now who had their mind erased too. And like, I know Jesus can heal, and it's how we approach Jesus and we deal with him, interact with him. At the same time, I am going through a trial with Jesus. It's like, do you trust me? It's not meant to be mean. This is some very deep stuff here, right? As we work with Jesus, it's not meant to be mean, like, I'm not going to give it to you, Mike, until you do this or jump through this, jump through that. It's not that. I'm pretty sure Jesus knows he's going to heal this person. We don't know the timing on it. But at the same time, he's ripping out my spiritual faults as I go through this. And it's the only way it can be done is by going through it with him. And it's stuff I don't enjoy. It's stuff he brings up, goes, Mike, the way you talked to me yesterday is like, what's going on? You're like, you didn't trust me. Like, oh my God, yeah, that did come out of my mental prayer mouth, right, to you. Also like, Mike, I need you to slow down a bit. I know you believe this miracle is going to happen, but we need to walk this out because something else I want to show you during this timing, right? And there's stuff beyond our reasoning going on. Okay, if God's showing me stuff, and it's not just because of that. It's like, well, why can't we have this miracle instantaneous? Like we're told, why can't we have the book of Acts? So I always have conversations with them too. There's something I'm missing because I was raised in a Western church where miracles and supernatural is non-present or extremely watered down, and I'm carrying something with me. And I need to have fleshed out to consider miracles. Like I said, I've seen lots of miracles in street ministry. I prayed over people whose bones healed right in front of my face. But with people who I was saying next to them and somebody was prayed for and their AIDS was taken away, in San Francisco. And they have documentation of it. And I thought it was funny because I would work these people a year later that they couldn't get some of their healthcare stuff canceled because the state of California doesn't count miracles as a way of getting rid of HIV. And so they were still getting paychecks and supplement checks from the government because they refused to believe it. So be it, right? They tried. So where are we at with this? So contending for a miracle, it takes a long time. You're going to be frustrated. It's going to tear you apart. It's going to rip you apart. It's going to make you revisit your faith and how deep you are with it. And the demons are going to come in and go, well, if you haven't got a miracle yet, Mike, Jesus mustn't be real. Like, no, I know he's real. I've had mystical experiences where I've seen him and felt him, So it goes back and forth. And that's what I'm saying before. Like I said, I hate bringing this back up. I had a friend that the demons tore her out of this stuff, and they listened to her. Now she's in this manifestation crap. I can manifest this, manifest that. I was like, no, you can't, you know it. But it's how the demons get to you, and they'll try to get to you during contending for miracles and try to rip apart your framework. Your framework and your foundation must be strong to endure these battles as you go through. At the same time, Jesus builds you up. And where I'm at right now, it goes up and down. It's like riding a wave. This week I'm doing pretty good. I'm back up. Last week I got ripped apart, but not to the part where I rebuke Jesus. I always remember he always brings me back to Job. Mike, just don't. It'd be like Job, man. It's not a Job situation for me. Let me say that, but it's kind of like he reminds me of that mindset where Job never gave up on God and Job never rebuked God, but Job got angry, right? So we get in those places too, and it's emotional, and it's all a part of us and our being imaged as God. As we go through these deeper miracles, he's not just going to give us this ability to have miracles happen. I hate to see what Paul and Peter went through to be able to have to walk by somebody with a shadow or just pray over somebody's handkerchief, something to have them heal. I'd like to be there to help people get healed. But there's a building in us and understanding in us that I'm told right now, I can't run out and just, if this woman gets healed, I need to fade into the back. And let her tell her testimony, not like, come on up, tell your testimony. M16 prayed with this person, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm instructed if she's healed to fade into the black, fade away. Like Mary Poppins, man, grab my umbrella and blow away. That's God's instructions with me. So if she's healed, I would love to stay in contact with her as a person, as a friend, but all the glory goes to Jesus. And as a human, can we deal with that? Can we get sucked into that? And all of a sudden we have to build a ministry around this. The answer is no. I've gone through such dark ministries, God has forbidden me from building a ministry around it. That makes sense? Ministry where I'm going around traveling to thousands of people and talking at stadiums like some of these guys do because they have deliverance ministries. God says, no, that's an abomination. You have to, as a child of God and as an ambassador and a warrior, you need to back away and bow down and follow the protocols to these battles. So I want some of you guys to hear that. You're not going to walk away if you work on something like this with them. I'm launched to a healing ministry. I'm speaking in front of churches. I've spoken in front of churches. I've taught classes. A lot of them rebuked what was taught. And it's like, where did this come from? They would rather listen to what the ministers up on stage were telling. And that was something that was cookie cut and regurgitated from another minister, from their sermons, right? I hope you light bulbs going on here. When you go into this sort of warfare, he pulls back the veil. This is what you're seeing. This is what you're dealing with. And it's all mystical experiences when he shows you this stuff. And that's the real training. You're not going to go through a training class, a 101 in healing and spiritual warfare. And I keep saying there's no methodology. It's your prayer life. And I so need to right now. I know from the ladies from the shift, these are some amazing women who are deep in prayer. And one of these days, I got to get them on. I keep saying that. I got to get them on. And we just talk about our prayer lives because I want you to see about 3 different angles of prayer. And none of it's methodical and how deep people can go. As a man, I don't ever feel I go as deep as some of these women go in prayer. Because I don't know if it's a male thing or what, but I still have a deep prayer life, very deep. And I think as I go to classes and I have some of these ladies talk about this stuff, this is stuff we should be capturing about what deep prayer life looks like. So you guys, this is an open invitation to you guys at the shift. I'm going to get you out here. I got to figure out the Zoom and broadcast properly. But you need a deep prayer life no matter what happens, especially what's going on in my life right now. I said, the enemy's trying to rip me apart financially. I got to stay in the battle. And Jesus goes, you trust me? I go, yeah, I trust you. I goes, okay, let go of this then. Let go of it. Let it go. So there's things like that. Ministry stuff I'd let go. It's like, this will, I work with some really good people from Bethel, and I kind of distance my way away from them now because I watched them all massively train wreckly fall apart. And that's why I don't do a lot with Bethel now, because they train you for everybody to be on stage. But I worked with some top people. I know how to put on a show. I know how to boost my ministry. Look at my ministry right now. Like, I know how to put on a really good podcast, but my thing is right now is I'm keeping it low budget. I'm keeping it raw because I don't want this to be a show. I want this to be instruction. So that's why you get like this. I may fix up my office there. I'm still working on that. So I got a better set to work from and stuff, but I'm not going to put on a show. I'm not. I want to get the raw facts out, what's going on here, guys. So that's where we're out contending for a miracle. It's very long term. Like I said, when you're fighting this stuff, it's not like the healing conferences you go to. Sometimes stuff's long term. You go through stuff. I actually had a woman talk to me some time back, and it was funny because she thought she was the big healer person in the area. I've seen things heal and stuff. And so she was very condescending, talking down to me. She didn't know I was doing a night strike. And I said, oh, yeah, I've seen healings. I pray for it. She goes, well, you never had anybody like me pray for you. I could heal your knees and stuff. And this is before I went into surgery. I was going, well, Jesus hasn't healed my knees yet. Like, you're not going to heal them. I'm sorry. It was so out of context that healing was all through her and she knew how to do it. And I'm thinking, man, you are so out of phase and humiliation right now. Go take a bench. I'm sure God's going to bring her into a trial of humiliation. It's going to be very public. It's going to be horrible. And that's what he does, these ministries. You see a lot of these guys like, I'm afraid like what happened with Mike Bickle too. Did something happen? Was there an affair that happened and he's bringing them down publicly because of that? I don't know. We saw it with Todd Bentley. They put him on a pedestal, right? And we diverted God to the showmanship of Todd Bentley, at Lakewood, Florida. And Satan came in and brought him down. The witches will do that too. The witches like pride. They'll bring you down through pride. So God has a lot of trials of humility on me. They're not fun. But he goes, Mike, you're not growing into something big. You're not. Just deal with it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fine with that. I don't want to grow into something big, That's why I go on missionary trips and help people I can, interact with who I can. And there's only like 2 listeners and a dog in this podcast, but I'm reaching people with information that's helping people. I know there's more than 2 listeners and a dog. Sometimes I go to speak. Sometimes these people show up like, I'll listen to you. Like, what? You do? Anyhow, so that's where we're at. Contending for a miracle. We are still contending, and it may take some time. I would love to see a Christmas miracle. Like it's a little, right? With a miracle on 34th Street, or like when the angel rings his bell, he gets his wings or something like that. I don't know. That's the Hollywood style. But I would just love for a great Christmas ending for this, but it may take longer. Maybe still be battling, giving you contending reports for another year from now. Who knows? I hope it's not. We're seeing slow turns of the rudder, little parts of the mind starting to spark back on, but that's where we're at. And I digress. Come on, let's move along, Mike. You spent enough time on this. Exodus 18. We're diving back into the word. Supernatural. Jethro's advice. Verse 1. Chapter 18. Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for his people, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. Now Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, had taken Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he sent her home. It's a long trip. You just go home now. They've had enough of you. Send her home. Send her back to the father-in-law. I don't know if that's what happened. But remember Zipporah? Zipporah's back to, oh my gosh, where are we at? Early on in Exodus. We're at Exodus 3 or 4. Remember, Moses wasn't properly circumcised. Remember that story? Neither was Gershom, the son. And he's back in the story here too. So Zipporah performed the duties of a Levite priest. And performed a circumcision on Gershom, and threw the foreskin at the feet. Remember what does feet mean? It's the idiom for genitals. Hey, learn something new every day, right? Learn cuss words on Tales of Glory, Hebrew cuss words. The feet, right? At the feet of Moses, which by proxy circumcised him until he had it properly done later. And remember, this is a ritual reserved for Levite priests, but Zipporah, his wife, did it. I just want to throw it out there to you ladies right now so you have some ammo. I know ladies get torn apart. Ladies aren't allowed to be priests or, and I have tons of ammo for this stuff. It could go backwards and forwards, whichever way, but that's something I always go with, because a part about that, God accepted Zipporah's priestly duties on Moses that he permitted Moses to live. Remember, he was going to smite Moses. That's it. I'm done. You're done. You're dead. You're all dead. Right? And the little clouds open up at the Monty Python scene. You're dead. You're all dead. So I know I'm being a little bit humorous here, but I don't want to be too sacrilegious because this stuff is meaningful to me. But I get sarcastic and humorous. But ladies, tune into Zipporah, what they did. Go back and look that chapter up because she performed the duties of a Levite priest and God accepted it. So let's move on. Cool stuff there, right? See, it paid to listen today. You already got some good tidbits. Verse 3, along with her two sons, the name of the one was Gershom. There he is. For he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreigner land. And the name of the other, Eliezer, for he said, the God of my father was my help. So God was my help is his name, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moses in the wilderness where he was encamped at the mountain of God. So where are we at now? We're encamped at the base of the Mount Sinai. And when he sent word to Moses, I'm your father-in-law, Jethro. I'm coming to you with your wife and your two sons with her. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other of their welfare and went into the tent. Then Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to the Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them in the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. Certainly did, man. He wiped those guys out. Hey, tell them about the column of fire again. Tell them about the column of fire. Tell them about they got wiped out in the water. Verse 9, and Jethro rejoiced for all the good that the Lord had done to Israel, and that he had delivered them out of the hand of the Egyptians. Jethro said, blessed be the Lord, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, because in this affair they dealt arrogantly with the people. It's talking about the regional spirits. There they are. Lord's greater than all the gods, right? All the Ben Elohims, the regional spirits in the area. Verse 12. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. This guy must be a big guy, and he showed up. The elders showed up to meet with him too. So he was a priest from Midian, right? So I don't know if he's a Levite priest, so I'll have to look this up. But then again, I don't know if we had the Levite priests yet, but we see this priestly thing being drawn out here by the editors of the scribes. Verse 13, the next day Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood around Moses from morning till evening. Oh God, there's a job. That's not fun. Oh my word. You just imagine, right? Have you ever had a leadership position in a church or a ministry? It's like, I just feel the pain for Moses right there. So verse 14, let's go on. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, what is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit alone and all the people stand around you from morning till evening? And Moses said to his father-in-law, because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide between one person and another, and I make them know that the statutes of God and his laws. Ah, interesting. So then again here, we're getting hint. Remember we had it last time I talked about in last Tales of Glory, episode 88? Do we have pieces of law in place now before the tablets came down? Or was there like some sort of instruction or a framework to law that was in place? Or is this an interjection in hindsight from a scribe editor, like commentary? Interesting. Let's do it again. When they have a dispute, they come to me and decide between one person and another, and I make them know the statutes of God and his laws. Okay, maybe there was something, was something already in place here before the 10 Commandments came down, because we're getting there. We're getting close. Moses' father-in-law said to him, "What are you doing? It's not good." They say, "What are you doing? It's not good. I don't know, Moses. Musha, what are you doing?" Okay, verse 18. "You and the people with you will certainly wear yourselves out, for the thing is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it alone." So here's some good mentoring advice from the priest of Midian. Verse 19. "Now obey my voice. I will give you advice, and God be with you. You shall represent the people before God and bring their cases to God. You shall warn them about the statutes and the laws, make them know the way in which they must walk and what they must do. Moreover, look for able men from all the people, men who fear God, who are trustworthy and hate a bribe." They must have had politicians back then too. I don't know. It seems like this thing's going on forever, right? "And hate a bribe." Let's continue. "And place such men over the people as chiefs of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, and of tens." Just putting a hierarchy of miniature, I won't say government, but a hierarchy of elderly judges or something in here, right? Not elderly, but hierarchy of judges in. So there'll be chiefs over thousands, and then they have these mini chiefs over hundreds, and so it breaks down, right? A little reporting chain. Verse 22, "And let them judge the people at all times. Every great matter they shall bring to you, but any small matter they shall decide themselves. So it'll be easier for you, and they will bear the burden with you." Oh, smart man. Verse 23, "If you do this, God will direct you. You will be able to endure," right? It's not going to suck the life out of you, Moses. "And all this people will also go to their place in peace." Verse 24, "So Moses listened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he said." Moses chose able men out of all Israel and made them heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, and of tens. And they judged the people at all times. Any hard case they brought to Moses, but any small matter they decided amongst themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went away to his own country. So Jethro went back to Midian. So concluding remarks for 18. So we see that Jethro shows up on site here. We're all at the base of Mount Sinai now. They're encamped at the base of the mountain. This happens in Exodus 18. Jethro shows up with Zipporah, Gershom, and Eliezer. Moses' wife is Zipporah, and his two sons, Gershom and Eliezer. Or Eliezer, I'll have to look up the pronunciation on that one. And he gets some father-in-law advice from a wise man, Jethro. Tells his son-in-law, Musha, right? Musha? Moses, right? That's the American thing of it. But you look at it in Hebrew Masoretic, it's Musha. So Moses gets advice from his father-in-law, like, "Hey, what are you doing? You're wearing yourself out judging all these hundreds of thousands of people, right?" Oh my God. Just imagine, right? So he follows with that. And so now we also see pieces of a law and God's statutes in place. Again, was this a scribe commentary interjected with hindsight, or are we getting pieces of, they understood pieces of the law initially before the 10 Commandments were written in stone and came down from the Mount Sinai? Moses, don't know. Fascinating stuff here. So that's what we're setting up now. We're getting this little mini government set up with Moses and through the chiefs and the judges, right? These aren't the judges like in the book of Judges. These are like a hierarchy that had to be set up to alleviate the weight off Moses so he could do other stuff like lead. Exodus 19. Israel at Mount Sinai. Finally, we got in here. So on the third moon, after the people of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. So we're guessing maybe roughly 3 months or something. They set out from Rephidim. Remember we talked about that last time, last Tales of Glory? And we encountered the Amalek, right? The tribes of giants there at Rephidim, right? Almost Rephidim. Excuse me. I'm trying to do English to Hebrew. D-I-M. I bet you that's Rephidim. They set out from Rephidim and came into the wilderness of Sinai. And they encamped in the wilderness. Then Israel encamped before the mountain. If you're watching on the video here, I have a slide of, I call it You Are Here. I decided to start tracking where these guys are at by each chapter. It may not be readily apparent from this slide. It might be too small. I may have to blow it up and do a bigger one, but I will post this on the show notes at a field guide to spiritual warfare.blogspot.com for episode 89. The same map, but it gives you an idea of how far they traveled over the days. And if you see the Red Sea there, it's like V-shaped. We're on the left-hand side and look towards the middle of the bottom of that peninsula is Mount Sinai. And that's where we're at chapter 17 through 19 right now. They're Rephidim. And now we're towards Mount Sinai. We're at the bottom base there. That's how far we've gotten. I'm going to go back and fill in the other chapters too. I only have 15 through 19 down. At the upper left part of the V of the Red Sea, we have Mara. Isn't that where Moses had to feed the Israelites because they were parched, right? And he had to smack the rock, or God did, or is it God, or Moses did with his staff, smack the rock, and water came forth. We're back there at the top of that. So it's going to be good to follow this map to see where we're at. So we have a general idea of where Mount Sinai is now, where they're going, and what's happening here. So let's move on. So if you got that on the video, there we are. And again, I'll put it on the show notes. So go check out the show notes. Verse 3, while Moses went up to God, the Lord called to him out of the mountain, saying, thus, you shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the people of Israel, you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Okay, now we're back into supernatural here, right? You guys saw what I did for you guys. You saw what I did. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine. So we have a covenant here. When was a covenant made? Are we going backwards, or is something that's already a covenant in place? Maybe there was a covenant in place when they left Egypt with God, most likely, or it's a covenant back to Abraham. Obey my voice, keep my covenant. I don't know. We'll have to figure this thing out. But what stood out to me in these verses, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine. Okay, this is post Genesis 11, where God separated the nations among the Ben Elohim, right? Deuteronomy 32:8. All the earth is mine. Okay, so all the earth is still God's, still Yahweh's, still Jesus. It all belongs to him. If we fast forward to the temptation of Jesus in Luke 4, remember, all these lands I have, you just bow down before me. And then Jesus responded with Deuteronomy 6. Don't you know you were made to worship me, right? That was the response. Because even though Satan thought he was ruling the earth right now, and he owned it, he didn't. It's still, that's interesting right now. It's still all, he says right now, it still belonged to Yahweh. It still belonged to Jesus. For all the earth is mine. So when Satan was rattling off in front of Jesus in Luke 4, like, I'll give you this, this, and this. Like, no. It still belongs to Jesus. Jesus just subdivided the nations under good and wicked rulers. And some of the nations, as punitive damage, got wicked rulers. They weren't given the property. They were assigned to maintain it and tend it, so to speak, right? So I want that to resonate right now. I thought that was interesting because this is post Genesis 11, post the dividing of the nations. For all the earth is mine. All the nations in it too. God goes, I'm going to bring all these people back together and they stop misbehaving. We're going to bring all the Gentiles back in, right? Fullness of Gentiles. Verse 6. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Those are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel. So Moses came and called the elders of the people and sat before them all these words the Lord had commanded him. So he's gathered his elders together now, right? All the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken we will do. And then Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. And remember, too, when you see the world's elders stick out, this is not church elders, right? Some churches tried to adopt this. These are not church elders. These are the elders of the tribes of Israel, some decision makers, the wise people. And a lot of times it was like a hierarchy, too. He had to get these people on board, right? He's not like the elders of the church. These are elders of the tribes. So we see it before, too, like when Moses and Aaron were first assigned to go talk to Pharaoh. Moses and Aaron had performed the signs and miracles before the elders, right? Okay, we're on board. We're on board. We'll follow you. We saw the water change. That's amazing, And so they were on board. So they went with them. Verse 9, and the Lord said to Moses, behold, I am coming to you in a thick cloud that the people may hear when I speak to you and may also believe you forever. So here he's coming as a thick cloud, right? We're seeing it again. Here he is, a manifestation of Yahweh, the God. When Moses told the words of the people to the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow and let them wash their garments. This is a holy event. And be ready for the third day, for on the third day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. And you shall set limits for the people all around, saying, take care not to go up into the mountain or touch the edge of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. It's supernatural. They don't, this is God coming down. Don't touch him. You're unclean. Don't touch me or I'll put you to death. Right? No hand shall touch him, but he shall be stoned or shot. Whatever beast or man, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain. I'm taking it, as we'll get to this too, this is a supernatural trumpet. It's something one of the divine spiritual beings is blowing or what, but if you get the gist of this, I don't believe this is a person down in the camp going, blowing the trumpet and like it's time for them to go, like a shofar or something like that. No, this is a trumpet going off here, and it's supernatural. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and consecrated the people and washed their garments. Or they washed their garments, excuse me. Moses didn't. 100,000 garments for him to wash. No, and the people, they washed their garments. It's something supernatural and it had to be clean and cleansed. Verse 15, and he said, go to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not go near a woman. What does this mean? You got another idiom here, right? It's not like, don't stand next to a woman. Don't do that. You're going to get cooties. Bring them up to me. That's not what's going on here. It's do not go into a woman, right? And why is that? There was something interesting here, and I have to go find one of the dissertations, something talking about when they discuss this thing. Well, it's a Hebrew idiom, because and we're talking adult stuff here, guys. Here we go. Birds and the bees, post Eden, where Adam went into his wife, right? He goes into her and he releases his DNA into her. Now, there's something there that when the male releases DNA, it's like releasing a piece of life off him. It's kind of like a desecration also, where it's like a component of death, right? This was hard for me to follow too. But it's why the man can go into the woman. It's not because if he's married to her, it's not unclean, right? It's the fact that it's like a residual death because some life left him. If you can follow that logic during when he laid with his wife. So that would make him unclean because death is like a defilement. So ask him not to lay with their wives right now. But don't do that. Don't go near a woman. So verse 16, on the morning of the third day, there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast, so the people in the camp trembled. So this is supernatural, right? There's a loud trumpet blast. I don't think it's Moses doing it. And it shook them so hard the people trembled, right? Wow, what is that? It's coming down the mountain. Then Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and he took their stand at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke because the Lord had descended on in fire. The smoke of it went up like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled greatly. Right? So God is descending on this mountain. It's wrapped in smoke. It's descending like fire. Cool stuff here. It's only stuff we can do in CGI now, right? It's just amazing. Imagine witnessing this. And as the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him in thunder. Where have we seen this before in the New Testament? Like God's voice was like thunder. Right? Make the leap backwards and forwards, guys. Let's connect dots here. Right? So we're also hyperlinking back to the Old Testament, New Testament. Verse 20, the Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain. And the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. And the Lord said to Moses, go down and warn the people, lest they break through to the Lord to look, and many of them perish. Also let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves, lest the Lord break out against them. And Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you yourself warned us, saying, set limits around the mountain and consecrate it. And the Lord said to him, go down and come up and bring Aaron with you. Do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and told them. So conclusion, Exodus 19. We were dealing with cosmic geography. That's what this is here, right? Well, the supernatural meets the natural geography. Heaven came down and touched the earth at Mount Sinai. We also know around the base of Mount Sinai, there was the regional spirits, right? They were releasing their giants, the Amalekites, where they were, to come attack in, is it chapter 17? Where Moses encountered the Amalek. So, it's a cosmic geography. So there's a mountain like, right? It's another Edenic picture. We have the mountain of God, which is being taken on Mount Sinai, and he ascends like smoke. We don't see any other these regional spirits try anything like this or descend like this, right? We haven't seen this before. And God's going, this is me. Let's see them do this one, engulf a mountain in smoke and come down like fire, and then have loud trumpets blast, and and shake the people like thunder. Right? This is God. This God. The display's got to be off the hook. I'm Yahweh. I am who I am. I am God. Cool stuff, guys. And not to come up the mountain, and you would wipe them out. This is God's holy land. Don't step on it. Only if you're invited. Only Moses was able to come up. Then he had to come back, get his brother Aaron to come up too and see it. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I want you to get the picture. This is all supernatural going on. Put the supernatural back into this. This is supernatural history that happened and took place. And we know it does. We're still talking about this stuff through history now. It was 6,000 years later? I don't know what it is. 4,000 years later, this occurred, and we're still talking about this, and it's still relevant. And we know these sites are here, and we know these sites exist. They're real. Mount Sinai is real. Cool stuff, man. God's just amazing. God is amazing. But I want you to see how he does stuff too. When we use the occult, we go to the Ben Elohims, the dark ones, right? Those in Ephesians 6:12. Not even the authorities, it's the dark forces in heavenly places. That's the one we're dealing with when we deal with the occult. And they will deceive man into getting anything they want. Remember, Adam and Eve were in the garden. They were already imaged as God, right? They're imaged as Yahweh. And what did the Nakash do? The serpent, the wicked divine spiritual being? Hey, if you eat from this tree he told you to eat from, he's holding back from you. You could be like God. They already were. That was it. They already were. And the deception, like, well, if you just eat from this, and that's a deception of the occult right now. Hey, follow this God, follow this spirit, and follow this deity, this Viking deity, or whatever. This is kind of cool. He's a Viking deity, Odin or whatever. We'll follow this, or we'll follow Dagon, or we'll follow something else. It's all a lie and garbage, and these things hate the fact that you are a spiritual being. God's trying to protect us. We already were. We were. That's why someday, don't you know, you'll be judging angels? Don't you know someday you'll be judging these regional spirits and some of these demons and stuff? You'll be judging them. The angels aren't, I mean, the demons aren't angels. They're unclean spirits, but we'll be judging them. So don't follow for the garbage on paranormal shows. Oh, we brought this psychic in, brought this Wiccan in. It's garbage. It's deception. It's all a big lie to suck you in. Stay with God. Stay with God, man. It's just, you're not going to find happiness in any of these occult things either. You will not. They're destructive, and the whole end game is, again, these spirits hate us. They don't want to help us. They want to lure you in, and then when it's too late to get out underneath it, at least you think it's too late. It's not true. Jesus will get you out. That they come in and destroy you, always, or inhabit you or possess you. That's just the truth of the matter, guys. That's what it is. That's where the exorcist gets called in. You know, it's. I even have family members that think that some of this, my ministry's like, well, you don't really see that. Come on, he was supposed to be kind of like wacky or something, you know. And I'm glad they don't see that, because there's some things I couldn't unsee, right? And that's just where we are, guys. But I know from that and the stuff I couldn't unsee, and some of the things these things blurted out, they know Jesus is real too. But I didn't need them to know Jesus is real. I already had my encounters with Jesus that solidified me before Jesus brought me into this. And some of you are wondering why you're not going farther in deliverance ministry, because your faith in Jesus is solidified. And Jesus took this all away right now, and all I had left with Jesus, I'm perfectly fine with that. Perfectly fine, because it's all about me and Jesus and who we are together. You know, if I didn't see another miracle again, in fact, some of the supernatural stuff has slowed down quite a bit. So I know I don't need it. I don't need to see it to believe in Jesus. If it never happened again until I die, it kind of sucked, but I like seeing it. But I don't need it, because I know Jesus, who he is. And even if these demons try to tear me apart, like, well, this stuff stopped happening. Yeah, I know. I've already been through this stuff. I've seen it. I know it's real. You know, and some of it's so embedded in my mind that they can't undo it. That's where I'm at. And it's just, Jesus is right. He's the man. Choose him. If you're listening to this and you just so happen to slide in, you deal with the occult, you're into some bad stuff here, man. You're never going to find happiness. You're never going to find joy. Like I said, I'm contending for a miracle right now. It's been harsh on me. God's been deconstructing me to get where he needs to be. But I still have joy in my heart. You know, I'm still happy. I'm not around grumbling. Oh, I'm in a spiritual warfare fight right now. Don't talk to me. That's not what it is. I have fun. You know, I laugh a lot. You know, enjoy my friends. Go out and have stuff with them. And I'm not worried about it. You know, it is what it is, because I know who Jesus is. He is the creator of the universe. There is no other. Which is, you know, it's just, figure it out, guys. Figure it out. Anyhow, I'm digressing here. So here we go. So it's in closing. So if you enjoy this content, tap the like button and remember to subscribe. I have a YouTube channel. I have a Rumble channel. On Rumble, I don't check the comments that often, but I know YouTube alerts me quite frequently when there's comments there. And, you know, Spotify too. And that's about the only way I get comments. I get a lot of comments from my area. I kind of don't know where all these things are being viewed at now, where I get the comments from, the questions from. You know, Facebook is just a placeholder. Facebook's a joke, you know, but I think they dial me down because I'm Christian. I mean, they went after my 501c3 too and tried to get me so I couldn't collect money off them. It's like, whatever, Facebook, I don't care. You know, do what you got to do. I don't care. So I'm not trying to be big here. Anyhow, so if you'd like to bless the ministry and help us share more biblical truth and God's supernatural, you can do so through PayPal. And like I say, you can send it through the PayPal at m16ministries@gmail.com. And if you also need to reach out to me about something supernatural or questions too, reach out to me there. Don't send me a whole log dialogue if you need help. And also don't go, help, I'm being attacked by demons, because that's the quickest way I flush an email. Because just, who are you? What's going on? You know? And don't send me anything like, other deliverance ministers couldn't help me because my problem's so hard. You know, that's like self-pride, right? You should see some of these emails I get, like, oh my God, flesh. And then Jesus will have me stop, like, okay, this is sincere. Let's go to this one. It's kind of like, you know, how it happens. It's just, do it from your heart. Tell me what's going on. Don't make a big thing out of it. I digress. That's where we're at. So anyway, that's how you reach me, guys. And like I said, take some of the stuff offline because the occult, they were just bombing my email. So and I'm not trying to hide. But a field guide to spiritual warfare on Facebook, you can leave comments there too. And I prefer to leave the comments because I can answer them or make a question through podcast, answer them, if that helps. If not, just, you know, personal message me, things like that. Alrighty, guys. Let's wrap her up. Again, this is going to be a field guide to spiritual warfare.blogspot.com. Look for episode 89 for as we continue through the supernatural. Have yourselves a good Thanksgiving. We're wrapping up here for 2023. This is Sunday I'm recording this, and so I got a couple of days. I got stuff I got to work on here too. And like I said, now go out and be a blessing and make good choices, right? Don't be cursed, right? Be blessed and make good choices, man. Until next time, this is the M16 Bishop, Reverend Michael Norton from the M16 Secret Bunker, checking out. Bless you guys. Be blessed. Amen. And don't blow yourselves up with deep frying turkeys this week. God bless.